Whoa. Whew. Hell yeah, that actually worked. We're okay. I teleported with my headphones, by the way. Isn't that kind of cool? I'm back, and I'm alive. I went to an alternate dimension for a little bit, just because, you get a chance to go to an alternate dimension, you take it. I mean, what the fuck are you talking about? And in that alternate dimension, I just had to take some time. The T-34 video was a lot of work. I hadn't made something to that quality ever before, and it took a lot out of me, but then I got caught up in a whole bunch of stuff. I got busy with work, my sleep schedule fell all out of whack, my car broke down, some family stuff came up, I started going to the gym, so I didn't predict how much of a wrench that would throw in my schedule. I spent a weekend having a pirate adventure and literally going to Pirate's Cove. I've still been busy streaming and managing the Discord. And celebrating my sister's birthday. God, like, it's literally busy. But obviously, nagging at my head that whole time, I wanted to get back into content creation, and I'm taking a bit of a different approach today. This is what you have to look forward to. In the meantime, part of the reason why it's been so long since my previous upload is because I have been making videos, but just not releasing them. I wanted to build a backlog, so that once I finished with all these videos, I could dedicate all the time solely to researching, writing the script, filming and editing for this next big tank documentary. And while I'm busy working on just that one video, you guys still have content coming out. Sort of taking the same approach that like Red Wrench does, because he's actually a responsible YouTuber who can manage his time well. So you guys have a swath of videos to look forward to in the coming weeks. Live streams are still happening weekly. It seems that no matter how tight my schedule is, I always make time to live stream. So again, if you're starved for Edit 320 content, I implore you to check out the live streams. In fact, one of the videos that's coming out in this series is a cut-up live stream. So if you kind of want an idea of the vibes of a stream, a typical stream, that's going to be there, so you guys can take a look at that. And if you enjoy it, sub to the live channel. But to sort of kick off this series of videos, I just thought I'd do something quite fun and easy, which is reading comments. I think it's a fun, neat idea for a nice comeback stream to respond to some of the stuff that you guys have said in the comments of my videos. I made a call in the Discord for people to submit ideas for fun and cool, interesting, wacky comments that they had found, and I was immediately lambasted for this cheap, lazy content idea, and also the fact that I'm apparently stealing from Cone of Arc, who I did not realize that Cone had done a video like this already. Sorry, not sorry. I don't know, I just wanted to do this. So, without further ado, let's just read some comments, shall we? Our first comment comes from Wongy1115, who says, I can't help but think that this man is the short-haired Jesus of Moist Critical, but a tank enthusiast. Yeah, it's actually been really funny and endearing to see people in the comments comparing me to other YouTubers. Wendigoon is one. For some reason, a lot of people seem to think I'm like Tank Wendigoon. I'm sure we'll find a comment for it. I personally don't see the resemblance. I guess I have a beard and dark hair, but it's something I didn't quite expect. Going into YouTube, I did not expect people to, I didn't expect that to happen. And now, I get recognized now, like on Reddit. Like I make a comment on an r/tank porn subreddit post, and like people in the comments are recognizing me. And they call me out there, they call me Funny Tank Man. And then the Discord has locally dubbed me Sherman Jesus, which is, I mean, that's like, it's really, really fun. I'm very pleased that I have such an effect. And yeah, I hit right, and here we go, from Kumpier6150. Edda looks like Wendigoon, but instead of giants, he likes tanks instead. Yeah, again, actually, funny enough, I don't actually watch Wendigoon. I don't know what his content is about. I've seen him in my recommended, I know what he looks like. But yeah, I guess he's interested in like giants and the supernatural. Like he like just sort of makes videos and tells stories about that sort of stuff. I don't know. Sator says, I loved the part when he said French tanks were good. I remember this comment. This was off the postscriptum video. And I mean, yeah, French tanks were not bad. I mean, I obviously don't know every single French tank that ever existed quite yet in the interwar, early World War II period, but like, I think there's this common misconception that when people hate on a specific tank of a nation, that just kind of pours into that nation sucked at building tanks. And especially France has just reputation of France surrendered, they were cowards, they didn't fight very well in World War II, all their tanks sucked, especially compared to the Germans. Compared to those kinds of tanks, French tanks were just as good, if not better, in certain ways. French tanks had better armor, arguably, and better guns, arguably, again, you can go back and forth and say, well, yes, it had a better gun than the Panzer I and Panzer II, but the Panzer III, you know, could have done it. The Panzer IV definitely could have taken out a Somme 135. The argument goes on forever. You know, I would not say that I think French tanks are amazing, but I also don't think they were trash either, and that's pretty much my answer to any sort of, do you think this tank is good or bad question. Burrow Diablo says, holy crap, a nuanced and informed video essay on the T-34 that didn't suck. Thank you. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of really good video essays on the T-34 that, I don't know what qualifying as sucking really mean. Everyone has different opinions. Everyone considered different information when talking about the T-34, and I did as well. You know, my take on the T-34 was different than what most people, I think, from what I saw researching the tank, but I appreciate that you think that my video didn't suck. Yeah, the T-34 video is by far the most time and effort I've put into any video so far. I had the idea for that video like a year before it came out, and I was slowly working on it, trying to figure out how it was going to be shot, what it was going to look like. There was a lot of like working on it a little bit and then taking a break to like figure out like I'm stuck. I don't know I don't know where the video is going to go next, and then coming back and forth. And there's an element of that where like you feel like it's going to suck because you feel like it's very hodgepodge. You feel like it's been like, I keep having to stop and like rewrite things and rework it, and it becomes so different from what you originally envisioned that you're not quite sure if it's good anymore. I was very nervous releasing the T-34 video, and also because, like, you know, the T-34 is sadly an almost taboo tank these days, and I don't like that. I don't know why, and I don't like that. Speaking of, Kaiser Habsburg says, sorry, but the 34 is undeniable in how good it was. It absolutely shit on every single rival tank there was, save for halfway through the war when the Tigers, Panthers, and Churchills rolled out. But by then, they had the 85mm, which could kill any of them, and the IS series. Never mind in the early days when you could pair the T-34 with a fucking KV. Undeniable in how good it was, I don't think is a mark that I would give to any tank. It's actually quite interesting, the reactions that I got to the T-34 video, when I got comments like this being like, you didn't sing the T-34's praises enough, like this video was trashing on the T-34. And then I also got quite a few comments that were saying like, you're a T-34 shill, like this video is giving the T-34 too much credit, which I think kind of means that I did exactly what I set out to do, which was set out a middle of the road. I both praised it and put it down because, like, yeah, like that's reality, that's real life, that's how it works, you know. I don't think saying that it is undeniable in how good it was, I think that's you're not thinking, you're not, like, your critical thinking is not happening there, you're just saying it. Where I think if you really take a step back and you genuinely analyze the vehicle for what it was, there are a lot of great things about it, and there are a lot of really bad things about it. A lot of the bad things about it are a consequence of its upbringing, so to speak, but also the economy of the nation, the manufacturing capabilities of the nation, of Russia, of the Soviet Union at the time, and of the bureaucracy. But I think that's sort of one of the key messages I wanted the T-34 video to bring out to the public was, the tank is a reflection of the nation that builds it. Its industry, its bureaucracy, its people, its potentially even its view on war, or on the war that you're building the tank for. And I think the T-34 was very much exactly the tank that the Soviet Union needed for World War II. And as I say at the end of the video, it won them the war. This is actually a comment that I saw somebody on another YouTuber's Discord. Something along the lines of like, great video, but he fell off at the end, claiming that the T-34 won the war. And it's like, no. I did not say that the T-34 won the war. I said that it won them the war. It won the war for the Soviet Union. And that's just an undeniable fact. Like, that's not, like, there's no opinion in that. T-34s were the mainline service tank of the Soviet Union during World War II. I don't think I'm breaking any walls by saying that. Irish Kiwi 477 says, this type of video going over variants and development history has to be my favorite video format that you use. Keep it up. Thank you so much. That's a very heartwarming comment because it's my favorite type of content to make as well. I love Tank Enthusiast Racks. I think that stuff is great too, and I obviously would love to continue doing that. I definitely think what I dub the tank documentary style videos are definitely the most rewarding to make, and they are the most, what I feel, they contribute the most to the tank history community. Everything else is just me having fun, but, you know, when it comes to what do I actually bring to the tank enthusiast community, I am very content with the guy who makes really good and detailed variant by variant guides on all these different tanks. Stevie Ounce 9184 says, other than the needless profanity, that was decent. Thanks. I'm glad the videos were decent. There's another comment about this as well. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Curtis Kitchens 7179 says, "Great videos. Too bad you use foul language. It would be nice to share with boys who are into these things, but the language is just too much." Yeah, I don't make my videos for kids. That's just not really, I don't really much care to do that. And also, you know, when I was a kid, God, I was watching the craziest stuff, and people swore left, right, and center. I'll be the first to admit, yes, I swear like a sailor. I really do. I have a pretty foul mouth. But I don't know. It's just how I do it. It's how I deliver my videos, and I like to be fun with it. I like to be wacky with it. I like to be down to earth, I suppose. Like, I don't know. It's just I don't want to seem like I've got a stick up my ass. I just want to make videos. I just want to talk about tanks, and you know, the way I do that is probably not very user or kid friendly or advertiser friendly, but I like it. The Bean 7065 says, "God, please do a World War I tank video. I'd pay for that." Definitely, especially after the response with Battlefield 5. I do think my break into World War I is going to be a Tank Enthusiast reacts to Battlefield 1, because that's, you know, Battlefield 1's a big game. It'll get a lot of clicks. It'll be a good intro into World War I on this channel, because we haven't talked about World War I on this channel at all. And to be quite honest, I don't know a lot about World War I, so it would be a great time for me to study. It'll be a good excuse to do that. And Battlefield 1 is just, it's an amazing game, and I really, really, really want to have it as a Tank Enthusiast Reacts video on this channel. Lightman0359 says, "You and Laserpig need to do a collab. You have similar irreverent styles." Irreverent? Huh? What the hell? Irreverent. Oh, irreverent. Oh, I've heard that word before. Defined as showing a lack of respect for people or things that are generally taken seriously. I'm gonna be quite honest, I hope I don't come across that way. I hope I come across as, like, goofy and silly, but I don't mean to disrespect or imply that I don't respect established tank history. Jeez. But then he softens the blow in brackets, "though you do get to the point faster." Thanks, I appreciate that. I've said this before, actually. Laserpig wouldn't want to do a collab with me, I don't think. I don't even know what we would talk about, and I don't know what the video subject would be. However, one of my fans was like, "Hey, you should make a video like this, and you should rope Cone of Arc into it." And I DM'd him on Discord, and I was like, "Hey, I've got this idea for a video that a fan gave me, who's also a fan that works with you. Are you interested?" And then he kind of responded being like, like, I wouldn't really usually do a collab on this kind of content. And that's totally fair. That's his prerogative. You know, I tip my hat to you, Cone. You're doing great, man. You don't need me. But I've been talking to some other tank YouTubers like Red Effect, and yeah, I'm in the sphere. People know my name nowadays, and so I'm very open to collaborations, and I have a couple ideas for videos that I could collab with other YouTubers on, and I'm just holding them in my pocket for when the day comes. Glitchy Uwu says, "Hey Edda, I got a question for you. Where'd you buy your tanker's jacket? You've been wearing it for quite some time, so I assume it's good quality, and I want to buy one myself that'll last a good while." Yeah, I've gotten a lot of comments about this, and I've actually been hesitant to answer them because I don't want other people stealing my riz. I don't want to see other people wearing the same tank jacket that I do, but I don't know, I'm a man of the people, so I will fess up. This tank jacket was purchased at a website called At The Front, which is a website where you can buy all sorts of really cool reproduction World War II and so forth. I assume they make it for like cosplayers and stuff, or you know, reenactors, or I'm not sure, but you know, you can get like a full paratrooper outfit, you can get like canteens and knives and ammo pouches and all this stuff, and it's all reproductions. And I wanted a tanker's jacket for the longest time, and so I bought one for myself for Christmas. I paid my own dollars for it. It's great quality. The inside is so soft. It's genuinely like a really soft, nice material. It actually keeps you warm during the cold, and it also like absolutely boils you alive during the heat. This became like my daily, like I was wearing this to work. Like this is my daily jacket. Actually, not anymore. I have since been trying to not have it my daily because I've sort of beaten it up already. Anyway, I sing this thing's praises. This is a very comfortable jacket. It obviously looks great. It's a tanker's jacket. That was horrible. And yeah, if you're interested in buying one, I think they're worth it. Military History 1482 says, "So what is the comb used for?" Love the video, by the way. I'd imagine this was on the Slightly Confusing Guide to the Sherman. The comb was quite literally, like, this is confirmed. I don't know why, like, people still have this idea that the comb is like this mystery object that we don't know about. The comb is confirmed. It's basically to hold like the parking brake while the tank is in shipment. So you'll tie like a string of some kind around the parking brake and hold it, and then you'll pull that string through the bow MG port or some hole on the front of the tank, and then you hook it around the comb, comb to hold it in place, and then that's constant tension on the parking brake to set the parking brake constantly while the tank is in shipment overseas. And I think it makes sense that the Sherman, out of all tanks, the Sherman is the one that has such a mechanism, because the Sherman was shipped overseas. Damn near every single Sherman, well, actually yes, every single Sherman that was used in Europe would have had to have been shipped overseas. So they all spent some time at least on a boat of some kind and would have needed such a apparatus. I did make a mistake in my video going to Fort Moore down in Georgia, where I found like a comb type thing on the T-29, and I talked about like, oh, it's a comb, it's not just the Sherman comb. On the T-29, those very large comb-esque pieces are actually for holding track links. So you put the track links on there, and those hooks support either side of a track link. But we did find a comb on an M20. So yes, it is also, in my opinion, confirmed that the comb is not unique to the Sherman. The comb is a general American thing, which again makes sense because American vehicles would have all had to be shipped overseas. They all would have needed such a mechanism. I have the document. I have the document that confirms what it is. I'll put it up right here. But like, this is a solved mystery, by the way. Pidge 1038 says, absolutely amazing video. Thank you very much. I'm amazed how much detail and research you put into your videos. Thank you. Not a praise I think I deserve, but thank you. By the way, when are you planning on doing IS-7 video? So it's this guy. If you go back into the comments of all my videos, and especially all my YouTube posts, community posts, you will find this guy. He's been asking for an IS-7 video for years. I don't know, man. I genuinely don't know. It's throughout history, at the end of World War II and then into the Cold War period, there was just so much development time dumped, so many years and so much effort dumped into these wacky heavy tanks and super heavy tanks. And the IS series is like the epitome of that, right? It didn't work, they stuck with the main battle tank. They stuck with the T-55. I don't know, you can say that this is a hot take or a baseless, a factless opinion, but in my opinion, I just think that the super heavy tank, it's just a dumb concept and it's never worked. And I've also talked on stream about how like I'm not really a huge fan of like these weird wacky one-off prototype tanks. I don't know, like in my videos I want to deep dive. When I cover a tank, I want to go deep. And for a tank like the Mouse or the IS-7, I don't know, like what do you want me to say about that? I'm not sure. I genuinely don't know like what that video would even be about. I'll cover series. Like I'd love to cover the T-20 series. So I guess I could cover the IS series of tanks, and then I'll end up talking about IS-7 through that. Yeah, I don't see myself making a dedicated video on any of those. Like, I just don't think it's deserving of a video. And I don't know, that's just me. WGCDR Luddite, Wigsitter Luddite, says, what a load of bollocks. The Sherman was a war-winning tank. Then at 1:20, you go to play War Blunder, and I realized that you were just another silly youngster with nothing meaningful to say. Cockwomble. Ouch. Yeah, this was on my Slightly Confusing Guide to the Sherman video, and I did actually reply to this comment myself in writing, where this is clearly somebody who didn't watch the entire video. And these kind of comments make me very sad, and it's please, I sincerely hope you watched past the 1 minute mark. Yes, the opening skit, the opening bit of the Slightly Confusing Guide to the Sherman is me watching a video from the Chieftain talking about how good the Sherman was, and then me going, wow, the Sherman's an amazing tank, the little Pepe reaction guy, and then me going to play the Sherman in War Thunder and then getting my shit kicked in, because War Thunder, that message is more to convey that War Thunder is just a bullshit game and I hate it, not so much so that the Sherman is a bad tank. And then obviously if you watch the rest of the video, I mean, damn, I'm pretty sure the opening lines of that video is that I really like the Sherman, I love it. The reason I make this video is because I love the Sherman. Like, I make it pretty clear from the beginning that I love the Sherman. I don't think it was a bad tank. A war-winning tank, yes, for the Americans it was, and for the British actually, I would argue. But yeah, this kind of comments makes me very sad, and it also makes me very sad how quickly people resort to just calling names and this sort of thing, like just instantly, like at the very least, just come in and say, "This is not the video I was expecting. Good day." But no, you had to. Glitchy Uwu is back. I didn't even realize that 2 of these comments were by the same guy. Says, on the Sherman video, I used to attempt to identify Sherman variants by their suspension and hull shape. I was only about 25% accurate. Turns out that I was completely wrong on all of those things to base variants on. Thank you for such a good and informative video. Yeah, of course, that video is very much me, like, I made it for myself. I made it as a message to my older self of being like, listen, kid, like, you're an idiot. Here's how you genuinely identify Shermans and everything that I had learned. But obviously I'm glad that a lot of my mistakes and then me basically making a video to myself explaining them translated well into other people's misconceptions about the tank and how to identify Shermans. It's a significant source of pride for me that like the third video I ever made on this channel is still like one of my most popular. Vepco008 says, what city is that behind you at the start? Also great video as always. I swear I'm not autistic, I just like loud metal things, tanks. That is the city of Richmond. That is where I am based. I was born and raised here in Virginia, and Richmond is my current place of residence. I didn't always live here, but once I moved out of my parents' house, I now live here with my brother and sister. I love Virginia. I have a lot of hometown pride for Virginia, obviously because I grew up here and I've lived here my entire life. And Virginia is a pretty slept-on state. There's just not a lot of people who really know anything about Virginia, and Richmond is a very unique city. You know, I'm admittedly not that well traveled, but I'd like to change that. So yes, naturally when I wanted to film kind of my first video outdoors with some kind of cool, interesting urban backdrop, you know, Richmond. It was an easy pick for me. Cumgoat says, why is this channel not more popular? What the fuck? These things take time. It's quite literally just how it goes. It's just the YouTube algorithm, you know? You don't blow up until you blow up. You know, I was always prepared for this channel to never blow up because like I said in the 20k subs video, I have always just made videos for the sake of making videos because I enjoy it, because I need to have an outlet for my tank enthusiasm, because ranting to my brother doesn't work anymore, and none of my friends want to hear about it because they just don't care. And so when I find something interesting and new about tanks, I want to make videos about it, or when I want to talk about tanks or play tank related games, I might as well share that with the world. You know, that's always been my philosophy with this channel. You know, I could hit 50k subs and then bam, I plateau and I never get any bigger. But I mean, hey, if I can hit 50k subs, that's already like, whew, that's insane. I already consider myself to have reached my like real or initial subscriber goal of 15k. So anything else beyond this at this point is just growth from passion. Jeff Einstein 5923 says, doesn't mention the M2, the grandfather of the Sherman, the T6 prototype, the M10 GMC, the Achilles, M36 GMC, the M7 Priest, the M40, the M43 HMC, the Grizzly, the Sexton, the Skink, the M50, the M51, the M60, the Egyptian Sherman with the FL-10 turret, the countless Yugoslavian and Israeli modifications, the countless flamethrower, rocket artillery, and self-propelled motor variants, the amphibious models, the tulip Shermans, the dozens of prototypes that were based on the Sherman, or various prime movers, cargo carriers, and APCs based on the Sherman. This was obviously on my slightly confusing guide to the Sherman video. And while I reckon that this comment specifically is sort of a joke because they obviously listed as many minute variants as they possibly could, I did get genuine comments saying like, why didn't you cover the M10? That was the big one. The M10 and the M50 were the two big ones. People were like, why didn't you cover the M10 or the M50? Like, those are Shermans. Like, what the hell, dude? And it's like, I literally said in the video, I had an entire like 30-second bit where I was like, I understand that there are other vehicles that are based on the Sherman, but I am not going to cover them in this video because there are just too many. Do you want the video to be 3 hours long? I mean, Jesus Christ. But no, that video was always meant to be a basic understanding of the base models of Sherman, because all these different wacky variants, at the end of the day, they all have to be built on an M4, an M4A1, an M4A2, an M4A3, or an M4A4. I did break my own rule slightly in that I covered the Firefly, the Jumbo, and the 105mm howitzer Shermans, but that's just because those are like by far the most common during World War II modifications made that you should know about. But obviously, yeah, there's 1,000,001 variants of the Sherman that I didn't cover in the video. Also, just because I have to have the last word on this, you mentioned the M10 GMC and the Achilles as two different tanks. They were not, they were identical. The name Achilles was given by the British, but Achilles also referred to the original 3-inch version of the M10, and as well as the 17-pounder. Chieftain mentions it in the video, but a lot of people think that the Achilles is specifically the 17-pounder modification of the M10, but it was not. Any M10 in British service was nicknamed Achilles by the British. So the Achilles and the M10 are the same thing. Mama Russell the Pie 3995 says, it would have been cool to know more about the logic and engineering behind trackless tanks. Sure. So, back in World War I, tanks were having a severe problem with track life expectancy. Even in the interwar period in early World War II, the tracks wore out way too fast. And even today, tracks are like one of the first things to go on a tank. Tracks need to be replaced every so often. You know, it's standard maintenance. So Walter J. Christie in the First World War, which that's that's around the time Walter J. Christie got started. Actually, technically, he was doing stuff with the Navy even before World War I, but during World War I is when he got involved in tank and armored car, more self-propelled artillery is what he was building in World War I. But the idea of a trackless tank, and the reason he built it was so that you could take the tracks off to drive the tank to the front lines, and then once the tank got to the front lines, you could put the tracks on, and then now they're only experiencing wear while they're in battle. You're not putting unnecessary wear on the tracks before it's even made it to the front lines. This was a solution to a genuine problem at the time. The problem with that is that track lifespan expectancy increased, and at the end of the day, by the time 1930s are happening, the like mid to late 1930s, it was no longer a problem. Tanks could drive to the front lines on their tracks, and it was okay. The United States continued to develop trackless tanks all the way up until like 1939. They actually adopted a tank, the T4, which was an experimental infantry tank that went up against the Stuart in 1935 to be adopted as the next light tank of the US. The T4 would actually end up getting emergency adopted in 1939 as the convertible medium tank M1. So there actually was an official convertible tank adopted by the US military, type classified, and all the bells and whistles. But it just never saw combat, obviously. It was saved in defense for the mainland United States, just in case Germany really went sicko mode. Point being, the Americans continued to develop the technology because they saw benefit in the speeds that you could achieve with a wheeled vehicle, and they thought it would be great for reconnaissance, light tanks, cavalry tanks. Now, in terms of mechanics, I can really only attest to Walter J. Christie's original tanks and the BT series. How it worked was the idler wheel, the sprocket, the inside of the sprocket was lined with a toothed sprocket wheel type arrangement, and there was a similar toothy gear wrapped around the back of the rear road wheel as well. And the idea was you would take like a heavy duty chain, and you would wrap the chain around wheel at the back of the sprocket, and then you would also wrap it around the rear road wheel. So now the rear road wheel, so now when the sprocket spins, when you put your foot on the gas and the sprocket spins, it pulls that chain, which then drives the rear road wheel. And now you have power to your rear road wheels without a set of tracks. And there was also this whole pulley system that you would have had to set up. There's all these linkages and stuff you would have had to connect back up to the front two road wheels so that they could steer, because obviously with tillers it's not going to work. You would normally sit and you had your two tillers on either sides, and there was a hole in the middle, and there was a steering wheel. There was a genuine steering wheel in the tank that you would take out, and you would plug the steering wheel into the center pole, and then you actually could drive it like a car once you were in wheeled mode. There's probably someone out there who knows a lot more about it than I do, but that is my quick summary. Squidward Tiki Land comments, "Who the fuck cares about tanks? This sucks. I like history, but who in the damn hell is interested in tanks?" Me? I am? I happen to like tanks quite a lot. Yeah, this is I guess an instance of a person who clicked on one of my videos and didn't even understand what my channel was. My literal icon on YouTube is of a Stuart. KessenX2883 says, "The historian who said the Sherman's armor is comparable to the Tiger tank is an idiot. If that were the case, they would have been tougher to destroy for the Germans. The Panzer IV is more or less like a Sherman than a Tiger. If I could use pictures, I would, since I have a book that has all the different tanks with the armor thicknesses, including the angled section of the front of a T-34 in the book." This has zero punctuation in this sentence. I don't know how to talk this sentence. "I still love the Sherman, especially the one called Easy 8 or the British Firefly." So this was on the Sherman video. This user is obviously commenting on the clip I included of the Chieftain talking about how, technically speaking, the Sherman has as much effective frontal armor as the Tiger does. He kind of goes through the math, and it's the idea that, yes, the Tiger's plate is 100 millimeters thick, but it's sloped at 10 degrees. So that's not a very big slope. So your effective armor is 100, just over 100. I'm not going to get into the math of it. Whereas the Sherman, the Sherman's front plate is only 60 degrees, but especially on the small hatch variants, it's angled at a much steeper angle, therefore giving the Sherman effective armor of I think it was around 80 or so millimeters, which is 80 millimeters to 100 millimeters. It's not that far off. Obviously, I do think he was exaggerating. Maybe he was a little too far to say that the Sherman has just as much frontal armor as the Tiger does, but I think the point he was trying to make is that the Sherman was tough. As he says in the videos, the 50s and the 75s, they could bounce, and they would bounce sometimes. We like to think of the Sherman as the Tommy Hooker, the Ronson, but the Sherman had decent armor, even with the long 75. If you were far enough away and you hit at a certain angle, you know, not using War Thunder logic, I'm saying that, you know, if you shoot from far enough away, there's a very real chance that a 75 from a Panzer IV could bounce off a Sherman's front plate. That is possible. Did it happen very often? I don't know. I wasn't there. But it's possible. The math says it's possible. I think that's what he was trying to say. Is that the Sherman is a lot tougher than a lot of people give it credit for. But yeah, apparently this user just chalks it up to that guy's an idiot. Which, again, I just don't know. I just don't understand the negativity. I don't know why you can't just say that guy made a very weird and inaccurate claim about the Sherman. I don't recommend listening to him. But instead, we have to call them idiots and cockwombles, and it's... I just don't get it. I don't get why people have to be so up in arms about this sort of stuff. The Big Kahuna Personal says, "Wow, Edda, you know so much about tanks. It's mind-blowing to a simpleton like me who could never know as much about tanks as you. If such a lowly subscriber could ever so boldly ask," remember to subscribe if you haven't, by the way, "could you give me a personal lesson on tank history?" I assume this is like what they're trying to do. "It's not like I need it or anything, but you're just pretty cool and know a lot, I guess. You're also really handsome, and it would be really nice to look at you while you talk about how much you hate the Panzer II. Wait, did I say that out loud? Don't judge me. I just look up to you so much. So what do you say, Edda? Would you personally teach me about tanks?" Very kawaii uwu of you. Yes, I accept your offer. I can teach you about tanks. I've gotten a lot of comments about how handsome, beautiful, gorgeous I am, and how nice my voice is. That was one I didn't expect. A lot of people say that I have a really nice voice. When I was making this channel, I did not expect my voice to be one of, like, the things that people would love. Be like, I just love hearing you talk. Like, you just have a great voice. Some people even said, I think I got a comment or two that said that I have like, a voice for radio. And I disagree, but even my dad told me, he watched my videos and he was like, "You sound so much different." I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, like, you know, your YouTuber voice." And I was like, "I don't have a YouTuber voice. Like guys, like, this is how I talk in real life. Like, this is literally me. I genuinely, like, I'm not putting on a character." Well, sort of, but not really. On my Quora's Cursed video, Koala Forest Tankery School 2656 says, "Could you do tanks in Girls und Panzer Dream Tank Match?" Sure, I guess. I don't know. I'll take a look at that. Why not? Mark009VN says, "Sometimes people forget the timescale in which the T-34 existed in. The M3 Lee barely entered production when the war started, the M4 Sherman prototype isn't completed until Barbarossa is well underway, the British were still floundering with cruiser tanks, and the French failed rather spectacularly the year prior. In an alternate history, where the Soviet Union and America switched places geographically, armchair historians would have lambasted the M3 Lee for being desperate death traps, and praised the T-34M for being war-winning tanks." This is a very, very good point. This is a great take, in my opinion. I actually did a one-off thing a bit on stream where I reacted to some, like, history hit video on the T-34, and I paused, and one of, like, my adding to it, things that I said was like, yeah, if you really think about it, and I mentioned it too in the T-34 video, a main medium tank of an army in 1940 being equipped with a 76mm gun is unheard of. That is not a thing. Yeah, Panzer IV had the 75, but that's not the main medium tank of an army. That's the support tank, right? The Soviets had been wanting to put 76mm guns in all of their tanks as early as 1937, which is incredibly forward-thinking. Like, that's genuinely very ahead of their time. The United States is still fucking around with 50 cals and the 37. Germany has the 37 and the 50, and the British have the 2-pounder, eventually the 6-pounder. So yeah, having a tank like the T-34 and the KV, even for as relatively small numbers as they were at first, and for as horrible to fight in tanks as they were, and their effectiveness is, we could debate about it till the end of time, on just a base level of having a main medium tank of your army with a 76mm gun that's very ahead of its time. And I think they make a great point here. We're like, yeah, the T-34 was basically the M3 Lee. It was the idea of, let's just put it together as it is right now. We have a lot of ideas for improving it, but we can't right now because we're being invaded. It would be the same thing if America had built the Lee because they're trying to figure out how to make the Sherman work, but then they get invaded and don't have time to actually make the Sherman, and they have to stick with the M3 Lee. That's essentially what happens. Soviets, on the opposite side of the spectrum, imagined that they were building the T-34 and knew, we want the T-34M, that's the real tank we want by the end of all this, and they don't get invaded by the Germans, and they have time to develop the T-34M, And then who knows, you know, after the T-34M, who knows what flaws the T-34M could have had, and they could have continued improving on the T-34M, and they could have continued making it even better. Who knows? I mean, at this point, this is speculative history at this point. We don't know. It could have been just as bad as the real T-34, or it could have been amazing. But it's a very interesting point, and I think it's credit that people don't give to the T-34 and the Soviet Union. OG Potterhead says, "Good day, Edit 320. Good day. Can you possibly make a video about the plethora of problems with the Tiger II and the Panther?" Tiger II is probably not going to happen for quite a while because, again, like, just that the late war German heavy tanks and super heavy tanks are just not that interesting to me. Obviously, in my visit to Fort Moore, I'm gushing over all of them because I love all tanks, but I think probably I need to learn more about them. And I will garner that interest and love for them. But for now, maybe the Panther definitely though, because I think the Panther has a very interesting. I think there is a very interesting story to tell with the Panther that I would like to get into and make a video about one day. Gurfand comments, "I honestly think that he T-34 would actually be the bad tank. And the bad T-34 is actually the good tank. This is only because of production line, because paraphrasing, I don't know why. A bad tank that is on the front line today is better than a perfect tank that never reaches it. You had a really rough start, but you stuck the landing, I think. Yes, a bad tank that is on the front line today is better than a perfect tank that never reaches it." I think the point they're trying to make is that if they had tried their best to continue developing the T-34 and make the perfect version of it, it wouldn't have worked, and it could have potentially been even worse than what the T-34 actually was in reality. And they're trying to say that the bad version of the T-34 that they had to make was the good version because it followed the philosophy of it's the tank we need right now. I'm giving this guy a lot of credit. I think that's what they're trying to say. Paraphrasing, I don't know why. Derpy Derp Derper, great username by the way, says, "You guys should play Cursed Tank Simulator on Roblox. It has this and more and is actually a good game." I've heard a lot about Cursed Tank Simulator, and I've never even touched Roblox before, so I would be very interested in checking that out because I've also heard that it's actually really good. And that is intriguing to me. I'm interested in that. Mr. Chara says, "Hey, Etta. Hey, I have an idea of a video for you to make. Play the temp game on Roblox. Cursed Tank Simulator is the name. They're dropping an insane update today. Check out the game. It's worth your time a lot." Okay, another comment about Cursed Tank Simulator. Yeah, I'd be down to try it. I've heard it's quite good. Lucas Gator 2 says, "Can you make a video on Roblox game called Cursed Tank Simulator?" Yes, sure. I'll expedite it. How about that? We'll make that video, sure. John Terry 9235 says, "Try Cursed Tank Simulator from Roblox." Soviet Union 6604 says, "Can you please do a review on how accurate Cursed Tank Simulator is on Roblox?" The man of Myriad 4495 says, "Something tells me you might like Cursed Tank Simulator. You'll find it in Roblox. But don't let it fool you. Tank is an absolutely blast to play. It's quite similar to War Thunder, actually." Cursed Tank Simulator. I think Cursed Tank Simulator is a game. Cursed Tank Simulator. Have you ever actually played Cursed Tank Simulator? Cursed Tank Simulator. I love Cursed Tank Simulator, and I think Cursed Tank Simulator.